All right, welcome you guys. Dr. Mike here, and today I have a really good exercise. You know, a lot of times when I meet new people and they find out I practice functional medicine, they start asking questions like, what does that mean? How do you get started? What do you start with? And today I'm going to show you some of the ways that I might assess a brand new client or brand new patient that I start working with. So really, in the world of healthcare, there's really four main major approaches, I guess, to try and understand what a patient is going through, get a diagnosis, these types of things. And that's going to be, first off, doing a very thorough health history. Sometimes just having a conversation, learning about what they do, what's the lifestyle, what happened as a teenager. All these different things can come up and give you great insights to kind of construct a theory, a story of what could be contributing or adding or creating whatever health issue they're dealing with. So thorough health history is very important. And when you're finding a functional medicine doctor, if they're going to skip any of these, then they may not be assessing the whole picture. And in those scenarios, sometimes they're just putting you through a functional medicine protocol that doesn't necessarily have much individualization. And I don't really consider that top tier functional medicine. Maybe it's great that it's targeting, some basics like gut health, inflammation, nutrient deficiencies. But unless there's that full-on assessment and individualization, oftentimes you might be missing some things or maybe not achieving the best possible results you could with a little bit more investigation. So getting back on this health history, the next biggest thing that I'm going to share today is this category, which is health assessments. I love doing metabolic assessments, nutritional assessments, because I can ask or have them answer hundreds of questions that we just don't have time with. And early on in practice, when I never used these assessments, I can't tell you how many times what would come up is I have a health history, initial visit with someone, we get them started in care. That was maybe a 30-minute, hour-long conversation. But then 3 weeks into it, they go, oh, Dr. Mike, I totally forgot I'm dealing with this. I have this symptom. Or I totally forgot to tell you I'm on this medication. Or that I had this test done. And sometimes, in our conversations, we just forget stuff. We don't hear it all. But sometimes when they do that and come back with new information, it's like, oh man, that would have been helpful a few weeks ago. We might have steered directions a little bit differently. Or they just fill me in and it goes, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense with what I'm seeing. Okay, so I'm using metabolic assessments like I'm going to show you today. And then the last two, which hopefully I might jump into on future content, is number one, physical examination. So actually seeing the patient, looking at the patient, visualizing, palpating, whatever might be going on, orthopedic tests, all these things from a physical examination. And then the last major area of examination is going to be, of course, testing, whether that's blood testing, hormone testing, x-rays, you name it. So I really kind of look at these four categories whenever I am assessing a patient. So let's jump right in, and I want to give you guys one of the actual assessments that I use with clients. And then if you want, you could do it at home. I'll show you how to do it, and we're also going to break down how to read the key. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch over so you can see my desktop, and I'll double check right here. Okay, so you should be seeing me and the desktop right here. And the first thing that I want to bring your attention to is there's a wonderful website from a great functional medicine practitioner and researcher, Dr. Dicken Weatherby, bloodchemistryanalysis.com. Now keep in mind, this is more material for this educator to educate other doctors and healthcare professionals, but for anybody out there, even if you're not a healthcare professional, I think going through these exercises could still get you a lot of great information about what might be going on with your health. So when you click on here and you go to this website right here, you can see Dr. Weatherby's multiple books and trainings that he's provided. I actually even have one right here, the Signs and Symptoms book. So I love a lot of his trainings, his manuals. They're great. I mean, Dr. Weatherby has done so much for the functional medicine space. But for purposes of this, I'm going to bring you over here where it says, click here for Master NAQ form. So NAQ stands for Nutritional Assessment Questionnaire. And when you input your information, of course, this is, designed for doctors, but I guess anybody could come over here and submit and get information. You are going to come across, and when you put in your information, you're going to have the ability to access this right here. So NAQ, you can see, stands for Nutritional Assessment Questionnaire, and it's quite thorough. So it's all broken down by sections, and I'll show you what all the sections mean in a second. So you can see 321 questions. This is a great example of me being able to get so much information from a client, that we can't possibly do in a 30-minute conversation. I couldn't run through 300 questions with them, in the office. And if I did, I'd have to charge them so much money, it wouldn't even be worth it. So I often make sure they send them home and do this at home for a little homework. Okay. Now, this nutritional assessment questionnaire, I got to break down so you understand how you can use it and get some good, valuable information for yourself. So once you fill in the forms, you can also download this part, Nutritional Assessment Questionnaire. So you're going to want to do both of these, or download both of these. Another way that you can do it is look at this video and just get an idea, right? This is the form. This is what it looks like. You can also come over to Google. Oop, I'm already there. And just type in Nutritional Assessment right there, questionnaire.pdf. So if you type in .pdf, usually you can get the form, but I often just come over here to images, and you can see some of these forms look like, this one probably looks like maybe the closest to the one I'm showing you. So you can see, without going to Dr. Weatherby's website, you can also find these forms and fill them out for yourself. Now, once you get the forms, of course, the next step is to print it out or whatever you need to do to fill it out and get all your answers on this page. And then I'm going to bring your attention to this right here. So these numbers in the top corner, what that means is your total maximum score. So now we're going to talk about how to kind of read this stuff. So total maximum score right here is in the top corner. I think you can see it. There's a 12 here. I'll show you this section because it's easy to count. So you can see 4 questions in this section times a possibility of 3 from each section. 3 times 4 is 12, right? Same thing over here. I think this part 1 section has 19 questions. 19 times 3 minus these couple, okay, because not all of them have a total maximum score of 3, and it comes out to 55. So that's going to be important because of what I put together for you here. So once you get all the forms filled out, what I did is I gave you the section key so you can see what section and all the questions, what each area might pertain to. For example, we can see here section 1 under part 2. That's the one with the 19 questions. And if we come over here to the section key that I made for you guys, you can see that right here, section 1 is upper GI, right? So mostly related to stomach, pylorus, these types of things, upper gastrointestinal tract symptoms. So you can kind of look at there and see that the questions do kind of pertain to that, right? The first question, is there a lot of belching? Is there gas? Is there heartburn? Is it acid reflux, right? Some of the most common signs and symptoms of upper GI dysfunction. So once you understand that, okay, so you got it filled out, you know what the section pertains to, now we got to start understanding, okay, is it mild, moderate, severe? And the way I use it in my office is I'm not using this as the end-all be-all. It's just simply a questionnaire. But the questionnaire can give me some good insight as to what is really high priority for that client, and also dictate what more specific testing and examination I should do in the future, right? Where should we spend some more time investigating, so that way we can help this client and this patient, or in your case, help yourself. So there's really, down here, I broke down the 2 ways to assess it. So once you fill out all the questions, the first way to assess severity in the different sections is to come over to this questionnaire. And just so we're staying on track with what we talked about, section 1, remember, is upper GI. There was a total of 19 questions, but these, it gets a little confusing, but what you want to write down at the bottom of each section is your total symptom count, okay? So if we came to section 1, let's say you had 1 all across the board for every single one. Then you would have, with 19 questions, your symptom count would be 19, right? If you had 3s, and then 1 right there, 3s all across the board, well, we know the maximum is 55, your symptom count would be 55. I would, of course, 3s all the way down would be incredibly severe. Now, when you come over here, let's say that symptom load was 19. Let's say you had 1 on every single symptom. Well, you're already ranking at the top of this high priority list. So anything 19 and above is off the chart high priority. But let's say you only answered 1 on, say, 11 of the questions. You would be 11. Doesn't mean you're in the clear. Doesn't mean it's perfect. But showing that there might be moderate priority. Anytime I'm seeing high priority and moderate priority, of course, those are the areas that I tend to investigate more, ask more questions, as opposed to if, maybe, I'm just making it up, maybe their vitamin need or adrenal markers are listed as 4. Okay, so I'm going to go to the highest priority or the lowest hanging fruit first, so to speak, when I'm helping someone, because I want to help them get results and some improvements as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's the first way, is just counting up your total symptom count for each section, going and looking at this key, and then putting in your answers down here at the bottom, and that way it will give you kind of a nice snapshot. It's like, okay, I got large intestine, essential fatty acid, something with my thyroid symptoms and signs, and something agitating my immune system, right? So again, these are not necessarily diagnostic. I want you to think of these as being just guidelines to maybe point you in the right direction of where you should maybe do a little more investigation, maybe work with the functional medicine doctor to get some testing done, or go to YouTube and start understanding and learning, how do I help with that, right? If you find out that I'm having a lot of sugar handling issues and signs and symptoms, maybe I should go to YouTube and start learning about blood sugar regulation. How can I help that? How can I help insulin levels, right? Insulin resistance, all these different things can come up. So use this as a guide, not a for sure, okay? If someone is listing on here, you can't, if someone got a 12 on their sugar handling, that is not saying they have diabetes, metabolic syndrome, or otherwise. It's just saying investigate it because maybe there's a good probability, okay? So I don't want people to get the wrong context and use something like this to forego actual healthcare professional advice and doctoring and medical professional advice, okay? So I'll put that little caveat out there. All right, moving on. Number 2, the second way to do it is you can add up your total symptom count. So using that first section as an example, right? I kind of gave you the example down here where that section 1 was upper GI, has 19 questions. Let's say you went through that section and your total count was 22, right? You had a 3 here, you had a 2 there, you had a 0, a 1, and it added up to 22. The next thing you can do is just take that 22 divide it by the total number of questions in that section, and you're going to get a number, right? So 22 divided by 19 comes out to 1.16. And okay, how do we know what's important? So anything I see that comes up to 1, okay, or getting close to 1 is more significant. So the closer you get to 1 is more significant, and you can have dysfunction and health issues even if you're under 1, okay? But if the score goes above 1 or way above 1, then we're talking even more severe, right? If this number ended up being 55, the total maximum symptom count divided by 19, we would certainly have a way bigger number, and of course that would mean potentially way more severe issues going on, okay? Now, to give you some idea, when you're answering these questions, it's nice to make sure you understand what it means, right? So I think there's a key right here. Let's see. Yes. So make sure you don't forget to look at this key so you know how to answer it, right? 0 is it just doesn't occur. 1 is like it might happen on a monthly basis or less. 2 is usually, okay, it's happening weekly. And 3 is more severe. It is an everyday type of symptom, okay? So sorry, I forgot to point that out, but that's important. Now, for the purposes of this video, that's all I wanted to show you, because that's a great first step. It's something I use in my office. I just have different programs and different softwares in my labs that I use that can calculate this stuff automatically for me, so I don't have to do it manually. But if this is brand new for you, I actually recommend you go through it manually, and it's going to give you some great insights and at least give you a guideline on how to assess maybe your own health. Or if you do this with a friend or family member, maybe to get a better understanding of what they're going through, okay? Now, in wrapping up this video on future content, where does this all take us? Once you get the assessment information and you break it all down, the next logical area to go down is investigation, right? Doing physical exam or testing to investigate maybe the high priority areas. So if I'm seeing a lot of signs and symptoms related to thyroid, related to blood sugars, related to gut function, then of course I want to run some tests right there, because signs and symptoms don't tell me necessarily what's causing it, okay? So we want to do some testing to understand what's causing those symptoms, rather than just what goes on today is you got symptoms and then people are just treating symptoms without much understanding of why and what's causing it, okay? So in my office, I do something called a functional health report. This is a Jane Doe report. It's not an actual patient, but it's exactly what my reports look like. It's a functional health report, and I love these because once we do the assessments, the questionnaires that you saw, I'm going to run a full functional health, a comprehensive panel, and I tend to always do comprehensive panels that are probably about 4 to 5 times the amount of information you get on your annual screening, okay? I call your annual checkup blood work, that's more of a screening as opposed to a comprehensive evaluation of what's going on, okay? So remember that. I'll explain that in future videos. But what's cool about this is on our functional health reports, we don't just list out what the standard medical range is, which you can see here over on the right. And anything outside, for example, BUN creatinine, anything outside the standard medical range gets bolded in red. And then what's really cool is the optimal range is more of what I call functional ranges, okay? So as a functional medicine doctor, as soon as something comes outside of functional, let's do something about it. Let's not wait for it to go way off the ends and become a pathology, a disease, a new diagnosis before you do something about it, okay? So everything outside of functional doesn't mean it's outside of medical ranges, doesn't mean you're going to get a new diagnosis, just means it's not functionally the best. It could be optimized. And everything outside of optimal, as you can see here, is going to be yellow. And then even better about these results, so when you work with a good functional medicine practitioner, whenever they're treating you, whenever they're doing testing, I think the third component that really should be a part of every functional medicine practitioner's practice is we're educating clients about how to think about their health, how to manage their health in a way that allows them to get better and better, rather than just continually only focusing on treating sickness and disease. The great thing is with functional medicine, the more we spend on building health, that in turn tends to take care of a lot of the sickness and disease, right? If you heal the underlying causes, what happens to the symptoms? They tend to clear up, or at least, at the very least, get better, okay? Now, down here with this report, everything outside of optimal, above or below, gets listed down, and while it might not be all the answers you're looking for, it's going to give you that textbook explanation of what that test marker might mean, what it could relate to. Okay, I don't recommend people get this test and go doctor themselves, because there's a lot of nuance that goes on in reading blood work and blood chemistries, and not everything is always black and white. You got to look at the whole picture going on. But with that said, I'm kind of just showing you a little bit of preview of what comes next in a functional medicine process, right? Or at least what I think is a good quality process of processing a new client and figuring out how to help them. So in recap, we talked about those 4 ways of assessing clients, right? Health history, assessments, physical exam, and testing. And right here you got a little insight as to, well, of course, when I meet them, we do the health history. We give them an assessment that you guys can go and do that at home now. And then I gave you a little preview of some of the testing we might do and how that plays out. All right, well, that's all I got for you today. I know I rambled on forever. Let's check this. For 22 minutes. So I'll end it right there. Thank you so much for everyone that saw this content. If you got any questions, if anything didn't make sense, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to get back to you. I am just getting started with this brand new YouTube channel, so make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.